Number 10. Willow Nightingale Botch Powerbomb. On one of the first AEW Rampages of 2023, the team of Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale took on Anna Jay and Tay Mello in what turned out to be an all-out bloody brawl that brought the crowd to their feet. In what was one of the best women's matches in AEW so far, all four women put everything on the line. Ruby and Willow even donned camo designed ring gear as a tribute to the Dudley Boys for how extreme this match was about to become. As the match went on, nothing was left unused, with even barbed wire making an appearance. Ruby Soho would end up the bloodiest out of the four, but the scariest moment of the match came when Anna Jay and Willow Nightingale battled up the entrance ramp, with Willow going to powerbomb Anna off the stage. As she went to perform the move, she completely missed the table placed below, instead putting herself through it and slamming Anna Jay back first onto the concrete floor below. Luckily, all four women managed to finish the match, but you can be sure Anna Jay was more than sore the day after this war. Number 9. Don Callis busted open. Don Callis is used to watching the chaos unfold, not being a part of it, but during a backstage segment in March of 2023, Don Callis was apologising to the cowboy hangman Adam Page, when out of nowhere the Blackpool Combat Club rushed in and attacked Adam Page, laying him out on the floor. As Callis stood there watching on, he offered a handshake towards Jon Moxley, who quickly blasted Callis in the face, only for Callis to accidentally turn around into a lighting rig and slice open his forehead. As the segment ended, viewers could see blood pouring from his head. However, it was later revealed that this botched injury was much worse than first thought, with Callis having to spend hours in the hospital to get his head stapled shut, due to the cut being so deep you could literally see his skull. Reports backstage said it looked like he had been hit with a hatchet, but luckily a few weeks later, Don Callis would make his return to television. Number 8. Dante Martin broken ankle. Whilst this botch would happen on a Ring of Honor show, which is owned by AEW, it was Dante Martin that would be on the receiving end of what might be visually one of wrestling's worst ever injuries. In a four-way reach for the Sky Ladder match for the Ring of Honor tag titles, the action spilled out all around the ring pretty fast, with all talents involved putting on a hell of a show. One spot in particular, however, turned out to be the most gruesome and scariest of the night, as Pentagon Jr. went to perform a Canadian Destroyer to Dante Martin off a ladder to the outside of the ring. The fall seemed too high. As both men fell, Dante would over-rotate and land directly onto his ankle, snapping it clean in half. You can see Dante immediately no-sell the move and roll around in genuine pain as the referees came out to assist him. Dante would be out of action for nearly 8 months before finally making a return to the ring. Number 7. Ricky Starks lands on his neck. Ricky Starks is one of AEW's fastest rising stars. However, it all could have ended in disaster for him back on a 2021 episode of AEW Dynamite. During his match against Hangman Adam Page, everything was going to plan, all up until the Hangman delivered the German suplex to Starks. Starks would over-rotate and land directly onto his neck, but to the surprise of everyone, he stood right back up and continued the match. It was later found out backstage that Starks had suffered a fractured neck, which could have easily been a lot worse. Starks would be out of action for 4 to 5 months, and luckily he didn't require surgery for the injury, and continued to appear on television for commentary and to cut promos before returning to the ring. Number 6. Bryan Danielson's leg gets stuck. In one of the more bizarre AEW botches, Bryan Danielson would suffer quite an uncomfortable fall. After competing in a tag team match alongside Jon Moxley against Matt Sydal and Dante Martin on an episode of Rampage, disaster struck. The Jericho Appreciation Society would run down to the ring and provide a post-match beatdown, and somehow Danielson suffered a strange accident when his leg slipped between the ramp that was attached to the ring. As the brawl continued, Bryan could be seen in pain, trying to free his leg, asking the ref for help. It seemed like Bryan's calf had got trapped and was being crushed by the ramp. Ringside staff, wrestlers and referees had to try and nudge the ring and ramp apart enough to free Bryan's leg, which they eventually did. Bryan took a while to stand back up and was seen limping backstage. However, he luckily didn't receive any long-term injury from this bizarre botch. Number 5. Christopher Daniels' eye hemorrhage. Christopher Daniels is one of the most established veterans of the AEW locker room, having been in the business for decades. However, not even the top veterans are immune to botching. On an episode of Dynamite in 2021, the Young Bucks took on SCU. During the match, Nick Jackson would superkick Daniels into the ring post, with Daniels' head colliding too hard, busting him wide open. This would result in a massive hemorrhage, and Daniels' eye would go completely bloodshot red. He was lucky to have even been able to finish the match due to the amount of blood loss suffered. Following this, Daniels would be out of action for 10 months before finally returning to the ring, with his eye only completely healing over a year later. Number 4. Lance Archer lands on his head. This botch will send shivers down your spine. During the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament first round match featuring the Murder Hawk Lance Archer against fan favourite Eddie Kingston, Archer would end up falling victim to one of the most dangerous and scariest botches seen to this day. This match was pretty physical as you'd expect, and it seemed that Archer had the upper hand. He went to scale the top rope and aimed to perform a moonsault to Kingston below. However, as Archer went to perform the move, he didn't get the necessary rotation in his leap. Eddie Kingston had already moved out the way according to plan. It meant that the 44-year-old Murder Hawk landed directly onto his head on the mat, effectively pile-driving himself. The match was paused whilst officials checked on Archer, but he wanted to finish the match and came back into the ring so that Eddie Kingston could do a quick roll-up pin for the win. Archer reportedly suffered a jammed neck as a result of the botch and went on Twitter to state how this unfortunate botch could have been much, much worse. Number 3. Sammy Guevara ladder dive. Whilst this wasn't exactly a botch, it was one scary moment that was literally inches away from disaster. Sammy Guevara is often known for his high-flying ability and athleticism. What better way to showcase that than in a ladder match against Scorpio Sky for the TNT Championship. The match is definitely worth a watch, as both wrestlers put on an unforgettable performance. There were some nasty bumps and landings throughout the match. However, the worst came when Sammy performed a corkscrew moonsault off the top of the ladder onto Scorpio Sky. Sammy would land the move, however due to how much he rotated, he was literally inches away from landing directly on top of his head. The commentary team, everyone at ringside and even Sammy himself looked visibly shocked as to how close he came to disaster. Number 2. Cash Wheeler nearly loses an arm. At AEW's Fight for the Fallen 2021 special, FTR took on Santana Ortiz in an awesome match, but unfortunately had to be cut short by a horrendous botch. As Cash went to climb up to the top rope, he was knocked back down right away. However, upon falling, he caught his forearm on the turnbuckle, which tore a huge chunk out of Cash Wheeler's arm. As the other wrestlers noticed, they quickly called for the finish so that Wheeler could be taken backstage for medical attention as blood was pouring out of his arm. A few weeks later, Cash Wheeler would post on Twitter showing the extent of his injury, saying he had suffered loss of grip strength and feeling in his arm. The injury looks like something out of a horror film, even though the botch was barely noticeable. Thankfully, Cash Wheeler would go on to make a full recovery and is back in action to this day. Number 1. Matt Hardy's head hits the concrete. By far the most frightening botch to date, Matt Hardy suffered a near fatal twist of fate. At the AEW All Out 2020 pay-per-view, Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara looked to end their feud in a Broken Rules match, where basically there were no count-outs, falls count anywhere, and anything goes. The pair would put on a really entertaining match, battling throughout the stadium. However, as the pair fought backstage and onto a scissor lift, with the plan being that Guevara would spear Hardy off the lift and onto the tables below, things didn't go exactly according to plan, and whilst Matt's lower section did go through the table, his head would completely miss and smash off the concrete floor below. From such a height, it was a massively dangerous spot, and Matt Hardy was visibly shaken and out of sorts immediately. He was unable to stand up as his legs were acting like jelly. This was an uncomfortable watch for fans, who were left frustrated at the fact that the match was allowed to continue.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.